right, good morning everyone. Welcome to our next video in the Introduction to Breathwork workshop. This is the online course version and we are on our next video where we're going to be looking at how breathwork helps our body. This is part one. So let me share with you my screen. All right. So breathing for your body. We know that we breathe all day, every day, but as I mentioned in an earlier video, we are not very aware of our breaths. But one thing you may not know that our breath is responsible for 70% of getting the toxins out of our body. You might think that our excretion system is the strongest or the most common way that we release waste and toxins, but actually it's our breath. So when we are consciously working on our breath techniques, our breath patterns, our breath awareness, we are, by virtue of focusing on it, we are releasing more toxins. And especially the breathing techniques that we'll be doing later on, called the conscious connected breath, we are accelerating that process. Also, when we are focusing on the open mouth conscious connected breath, we are playing with the oxygen and carbon dioxide levels in our body. What does that mean? That means we are increasing the intake of oxygen and increasing the excretion of carbon dioxide. So when that happens, a powerful transformation can happen in our body. Mostly that means that we are, not to get too technical, but it does affect our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain. So when we're doing this conscious connected breath, this very specific breathing pattern, we are taking our brains, our thinking mind, offline, so to speak. And we may find that we are in a state of more awareness, maybe a dreamlike state, just that moment before you fall asleep or wake up, that really kind of fuzzy, light feeling. All right, next, if you haven't heard already, our breath really helps us manage our nervous system. And the two main parts of our autonomic nervous system are the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. They may be commonly known as the fight, flight, and freeze, or the accelerator. So when danger happens, that saber-toothed tiger back in the caveman days, that saber-toothed tiger was chasing us. So we would our body would switch and activate our nervous system that is responsible for that, the fight, flight part, so the sympathetic. It's kind of like the accelerator in the car. Our breath also affects the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and digest. It's kind of like the brakes in our car. When we are in a yoga class, for example, or we are really focused on our breathing, or maybe we have even done some exercise and we just feel that release, and or we have eaten, we are switching into the slower rest and digest, which is kind of like the brakes in the car. Now, the breath pattern of the conscious connected breath, it actually works on tuning each of these systems by charging the sympathetic nervous system and then relaxing or activating the rest and digest. And we'll get more into that in a little bit, but just know that our breath pattern, and any breath pattern that we may choose to do, is going to be working on activating our different nervous systems. Now, the thing about our nervous systems is sometimes we get stuck. If you've had a really busy week or a stressful time, we notice that we kind of get that feeling like we're running on fumes, or we're got that adrenaline rush. We just keep feeling like we can't relax. We might be stuck in the sympathetic. On the other hand, if we feel really lethargic, we find it hard to focus on things, maybe feeling depressed and really without energy, we may in fact be stuck in the parasympathetic mode of our autonomic nervous system. So with all that being said, when we are conscious of our breath, when we practice breath techniques, as well as specifically the conscious connected breath, we are training is another word, our nervous systems to better handle. Okay. The last point I'd like to look at today is 90 seconds. Now, what do you think 90 seconds might mean? I'm going to give you a pause here. What does 90 seconds mean about breathing? Well, Good guess, assuming that you made a guess. So 90 seconds is the average lifespan of an emotion or feeling. Now, what does that have to do with breathing? Well, imagine you're feeling really stressed, for example. That feeling, without attaching any story, without continuing that feeling by talking about it, magnifying it, if we breathe and really feel that feeling in our body, the lifespan of that emotion is 90 seconds. So if you think about it, you're feeling really worried about something. Okay, you're feeling worried, knowing in your brain that that feeling from start to completion lasts around 90 seconds. If I breathe during that part and feel, where does that anxiety, where does that nervousness feel? We often feel that in our low belly or butterflies, depending on the positivity or negativity of the event. If we breathe and feel and acknowledge that emotion, it has run its cycle and it's done. When we start, our brain is really tricky. Our brain wants to figure out, okay, this is happening. Because in the caveman days, we needed that kind of quick thinking. We hear that sound in the trees. We know it means that we have to run to protect our family or run to get safe. We didn't have time to think about, let's philosophize about that. We just knew that we needed to react. So we still have that, I believe it's the limbic brain part of from that time. So when we breathe and we feel that emotion, 90 seconds is the magic number. All right, let's get to some activities. Today we're going to do a couple. The first one I think you might really enjoy. It's called the yawn. Yes, the familiar yawn. The one that we're told is rude or shows that we're not paying attention or that we're bored. It's actually the way our body signals that, yeah, we may in fact need more energy, but it might also signal that we are going into a state of relaxation. It releases hormones, kind of those feel-good hormones. There's lots of great benefits. So let's give that yawn exercise a practice. Give it a stretch. Sometimes voice it, whatever feels good. Get that yawn in there, and knowing it's our body's natural way of energizing. And most times when you feel a yawn, when we kind of stifle it, we're not really letting the yawn do its job. But when you put the voice in, you stretch and you open your mouth, find your mouth, we actually feel like we have a little bit more energy. So it's our natural way of charging our system and signaling that we are maybe ready for sleep. All right. The second exercise is called the heart rate variability practice. And you might remember something we did a few videos earlier, in that we breathed in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. And so that is the heart rate coherence breath that is connected to this. What does this mean? This means that when we are experiencing emotions, our heart rate, as we know, goes up or down. If we're really excited or nervous, our heart rate goes up. And when we're maybe getting ready for bed or kind of finish something really quiet activity or listening to really soft music, our heart rate goes down. The more we practice and train that heart rate breath, so the breath, again, tuning and connecting with our heart rate, the more, as I mentioned earlier, the more we practice this 5 in, 5 out, the higher level of tolerance and fluctuation of our heart rate. And what that actually translates into is that things that may have once stressed us or really annoyed us or just bugged us for no other reason, if we do this practice continually for a couple of weeks, we will notice that our system reacts differently. It won't react quite as quickly. We may have that space to think about things and respond rather than react. So I've written on the screen 5, 5, 5 times 3. So that means you're breathing in for 5 seconds, out for 5. Do that for 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Okay? So that is your challenge for you. And before we do just another simple practice with that, to remind you how that practice goes, I would like you to take your phone or device and schedule in What's a good time for you to practice this breath? And I know it seems really random. Wow, I got to practice, my breathing, schedule it into my calendar. But I promise you, being aware of your breath and training your system is a really great way for health benefits. And we'll talk more about that in upcoming videos. Of course, managing stress, reducing anxiety, increasing energy, lots of great things. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have scheduled that in. Maybe you've made a note, or maybe you've actually done it in your device, so that's great. I used to have mine at 5:30 p.m. because that was just kind of that getting kids ready for bath and bed time, just after supper. So it was always really kind of chaotic. Or 9:30 in the morning, kind of just before I would settle into my work at home. I now do it more natural. I find when I feel that stress, I'm like, oh yeah, 90 seconds, 5 in, 5 out. Let's see if I can do that for a couple of minutes. So just a reminder, 5 in, it's like, and out through the mouth or nose. In, and out. Last one. And out. And as I mentioned in a previous video, if you'd like to quickly kind of calm down your nervous system, breathing out and extending your breath for a little bit. I know we said 5, 5, 5, but breathing out in this practice, in for 5, out for 5 through your mouth is a really great way to quickly calm your system. All right, that's all for our breathing for your body. I will see you in the next training, which talks about breathing for your mind. Thanks for tuning in.